Decoding the world's most secretive regime, North Korea. In a world where transparency often prevails, one nation remains veiled in secrecy, North Korea. Understanding the intricacies of the world's most secretive regime, led by the enigmatic Kim dynasty, is essential to grasping the global geopolitical landscape. North Korea's aura of mystery captivates the world. As we delve into this secretive realm, it becomes apparent that decoding North Korea is not merely an intellectual pursuit. It is an emotional journey into the lives of its citizens, shaped by a regime that has defied the norms of openness. Welcome to my new video. We discuss decoding the world's most secretive regime, North Korea. Please help me grow this channel by subscribing, commenting, showing it to your friends, and giving it a like. Now let's dive into this exciting topic. Historical background. The history of North Korea, formerly known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, began with the end of World War II in 1945. Here's a brief overview. Division of Korea, 1945-1948. The surrender of Japan led to the division of Korea at the 38th parallel, with the Soviet Union occupying the north and the United States occupying the south. In 1948, two separate governments were established: the Soviet-aligned DPRK and the American-aligned Republic of Korea. Korean War, 1950-1953. In 1950, the Korean War broke out. After much destruction, the war ended with a stalemate. Post-war period. Out of the rubble, North Korea built an industrialized command economy. Kim Il-sung led North Korea until his death in 1994. He developed a pervasive personality cult and steered the country on an independent course in accordance with the principle of juche, self-reliance. Economic crisis, 1991 onwards. With natural disasters and the collapse of the Soviet bloc in 1991, North Korea went into a severe economic crisis. Kim Il-sung's son, Kim Jong-il, succeeded him, and was in turn succeeded by his grandson, Kim Jong-un. Before the division, from 1910 to the end of World War II in 1945, Korea was under Japanese rule. Most Koreans were peasants engaged in subsistence farming. In the 1930s, Japan developed mines, hydroelectric dams, steel mills, and manufacturing plants in northern Korea and neighboring Manchuria. As a result, 65% of Korea's heavy industry was located in the north. What is the current situation in North Korea? The current situation in North Korea is complex and multifaceted. Here are some key points. Political situation. North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, has continued to develop the country's weapons program despite international sanctions. He has also pledged to strengthen the country's nuclear arsenal. Economic crisis. North Korea is facing one of the worst economic crises in its 73-year history, with shortages of food and medicines. Human rights. North Korea remains one of the most repressive countries in the world. The totalitarian government maintains fearful obedience using threats of execution, imprisonment, enforced disappearance, and forced labor. Diplomatic stalemate. Since 2018, there have been efforts to establish new U.S.-DPRK relations and work toward the complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. However, disagreements have led to a diplomatic stalemate, and tensions are increasing. How does North Korea's government work? North Korea, officially known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, is a hereditary dictatorship and a socialist state. Here's a brief overview of how its government works. Supreme Leader. All authority in North Korea flows from the Supreme Leader. The position has been held by 3 generations of the Kim family since 1948. The current leader, Kim Jong-un, has consolidated his power, purging many top officials and continuing to boost the country's nuclear capabilities. Government structure. The North Korean government consists of 3 branches: administrative, legislative, and judicial. However, they are not independent of each other, but all branches are under the exclusive political leadership of the Workers' Party of Korea, WPK. Legislative body. The Supreme People's Assembly, SPA, is the highest organ of state power and the primary legislative body. It consists of a single chamber with 687 members elected to 5-year terms by universal adult suffrage. The SPA Presidium handles most of the day-to-day legislative business. Political power. Political power is held by the Korean Workers' Party, KWP, whose highest authority is the party Congress, led by an elected central committee. The KWP draws up lists of approved candidates for elections. Constitution. The first constitution of the DPRK was promulgated in 1948 and has been revised several times. The 1998 revision enshrined Kim Il-sung as the eternal president and the 2009 revision enshrined the supreme leader and chairman of the National Defense Commission, NDC, as the country's highest administrative authority. The 2016 revision created the State Affairs Commission, a new body that replaced the NDC as the highest government entity. In practice, however, the government is under one-man leadership. The head of government is the premier, assisted by several vice premiers and a cabinet, the members of which are appointed by the national legislature, the Supreme People's Assembly, SPA. The president of the SPA is North Korea's titular head of state. The impacts of isolationist policies? Isolationist policies where a nation avoids political or economic entanglements with other countries can have several impacts. Economic impact. Isolationism can affect the robustness of a nation's economy. Without trade agreements with other nations, the economy may suffer. In today's global market, isolationism can hinder the growth of a nation, since its government or state will not be able to interact and trade with other nations. 2. Political impact. Isolationist policies can lead to a nation becoming vulnerable to attacks. It can also encourage policies of appeasement in other nations, as seen during the 1930s when U.S. isolationism contributed to French paralysis in the face of the growing threat posed by Nazi Germany. Global impact. Isolationism can affect globalization. It can also lead to a nation being a passive bystander during critical historical events, as was the case with the United States during the 1930s. 4. National security. Isolationism can sometimes serve a nation well by limiting foreign entanglements, as was the case with the United States during the 19th century. However, this aversion to involvement abroad can also lead the nation astray, as happened during the 1930s when the United States was a passive bystander during one of history's darkest decades. It's important to note that the impacts of isolationist policies can vary greatly depending on the specific circumstances of each nation and the global context in which these policies are implemented. Impacts of international sanctions on North Korea. International sanctions have had significant impacts on North Korea. Economic impact. Sanctions have significantly affected North Korea's economy and trade. They have banned the trade of weapons and military equipment, frozen the assets of people involved in the nuclear program, and restricted scientific cooperation, among other actions. However, North Korea has established mechanisms for evading these sanctions, particularly with the backing of China and Russia. 2. Political impact. Despite the pressure from economic sanctions, North Korea has not been pushed toward denuclearization. Critics argue that the sanctions need stronger enforcement, hurt ordinary families instead of elites, and embolden the regime to continue nuclear development. 3. Humanitarian impact. The sanctions have taken a humanitarian toll on the entire population. By undermining their ability to survive, they have broadly impacted North Korea's national economy. Illicit activities. To evade sanctions, North Korea has engaged in illicit activities abroad. It's important to note that the effectiveness of these sanctions has been undermined by the failure of some countries to enforce them, and the willingness of some companies to flout them. Even if the sanctions were tightened, many question whether they would achieve the desired outcome. Human rights issues in North Korea. Human rights issues in North Korea are severe and pervasive. Here are some of the key issues. Unlawful or arbitrary killings. The government has been reported to carry out unlawful or arbitrary killings. 2. Forced disappearances and torture. The government is known to conduct forced disappearances and subject people to torture. 3. Harsh and life-threatening prison conditions. Political prison camps, Kwanliso, in remote regions are known for their harsh and life-threatening conditions. 4. Restrictions on freedom. The government severely restricts freedom of expression, religion, assembly, and movement. 5. Forced labor. The government systematically extracts forced, unpaid labor from its citizens to build infrastructure and conduct other government-ordered campaigns and public work projects. 6. Violation of children's rights. The government is known to use the worst forms of child labor. 7. Violation of women's rights. The government lacks investigation of and accountability for gender-based violence. 8. Coerced abortion and forced sterilization. There have been reports of coerced abortion and forced sterilization. These issues are part of a broader pattern of human rights abuses in North Korea, which remains one of the most repressive countries in the world. The impacts of nuclear ambitions on North Korea? North Korea's nuclear ambitions have had significant impacts on the country and the region. 1. Political impact. North Korea's nuclear ambitions have led to increased tensions with the United States and other countries. The country's leader, Kim Jong-un, has continued to develop the country's weapons program, despite international sanctions. he has also pledged to strengthen the country's nuclear arsenal. Economic impact. The pursuit of nuclear weapons has led to international sanctions that have significantly affected North Korea's economy. These sanctions have banned trade of certain goods and have frozen the assets of people involved in the nuclear program. 3. Security impact. North Korea's nuclear ambitions have led to a destabilization of the region. The country's actions seem almost suicidal from a U.S. perspective, as they are creating a threat that could lead the U.S. into preventive strikes against North Korea. 4. Global impact. North Korea's nuclear ambitions have implications for global security. Despite North Korea's defiance of international censure and sanctions, revived diplomacy is the best path to curb its nuclear program. Internal impact. The nuclear ambitions have also had internal impacts. For instance, resources that could have been used for the welfare of the citizens are diverted towards nuclear programs. What is daily life like for North Korean citizens? Daily life in North Korea is heavily influenced by the country's political climate and economic conditions. Here are some aspects of daily life. Work assignments. North Koreans are assigned jobs by the state. Most men have compulsory state jobs, but their wages are often insufficient, forcing their wives to find creative ways to make a living. Food and medicine shortages. Since the government sealed the borders more than 3 years ago, there have been shortages of food and medicine. 3. Surveillance and fear. The government closely monitors its citizens. Even in their own homes, people cannot speak freely for fear of bugs or listening devices. This fear extends to neighbors, as there is almost no one they can trust. 4. Limited freedom. The government strictly controls all areas of daily life. People have to ask permission to travel around, and it's difficult for visitors to enter the country. 5. Self-criticism sessions. These are regular meetings where individuals must confess their mistakes and criticize others. 6. Information control. North Korea is one of the most isolated countries in the world. The government controls all information, making it difficult for citizens to know what's happening outside their country. Cyber warfare. North Korea has been developing its cyber warfare capabilities for over 35 years. Here are some key points. On evolution, North Korea's cyber units have progressively developed their resources, assets, malware arsenals, and coding capabilities based on their experience from attacking different targets. They are also collaborating on attack campaigns by sharing networking infrastructure and continuously adapting malware code in order to avoid detection. Strategic goals. North Korea has strengthened its cyber offensive capabilities to achieve 3 critical strategic goals, counterbalancing the growing gap in traditional military capabilities between North Korea and the U.S. ROC Republic of Korea alliance, causing social disruption in adversaries with little immediate risk of retaliation, financing the impoverished Pyongyang regime. 3 major milestones. Starting in the mid-1980s, Pyongyang established 3 institutions that significantly contributed to advancing the country's offensive cyber program. Miram College, the Pyongyang Informatics Information Center, and the Korea Computer Center. 4. Current threat. North Korea's cyber program poses a sophisticated and agile espionage, cybercrime, and attack threat. Recent North Korean state-sponsored cyber activity includes the launching of ransomware campaigns against healthcare and public health sector organizations and other critical infrastructure sector entities. 5. Mitigation measures. To strengthen operational resilience against this threat, CISA advises organizations to implement actionable mitigations. These include prioritizing mitigation of known exploited vulnerabilities, implementing the cyber performance goals, and urgently reporting potential malicious activity to CISA or the FBI. North Korea and international relationship. North Korea, officially known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, has a complex relationship with the international community. 1. Diplomatic relations. North Korea has formal diplomatic relations with 160 states. However, its foreign relations have been dominated by its conflict with South Korea and its historical ties to the Soviet Union. International conflict. Both the government of North Korea and the government of South Korea claim to be the sole legitimate government of the whole of Korea. This has led to ongoing tensions and conflicts, not just with South Korea, but also with other countries, particularly the United States. 3. Sanctions. North Korea's nuclear ambitions have led to international sanctions that have significantly affected the country's economy. Despite these sanctions, North Korea has continued to develop its nuclear program. Or diplomacy efforts. There have been international efforts to resolve the confrontation on the Korean Peninsula. However, disagreements have led to a diplomatic stalemate, and tensions are increasing. 5. Human rights. North Korea's human rights record has also affected its international relations. The country is often criticized for its treatment of its citizens. The personal narratives of individuals who escaped North Korea add a human dimension to the narrative. These stories provide first-hand accounts of life under the oppressive regime, making the distant reality more palpable. North Korea and the role of modern technology? Modern technology plays a significant role in North Korea. Despite the country's isolation, on information and technology, North Korea has developed its own internet, technology industry, and even tablet computers. They've used information technology and the web as a weapon of war, a powerful tool to further their own foreign policy interests. Science and technology policy. North Korea perceives science and technology as engines for promoting both nuclear armament and economic development. The switch of policy attention to science and technology has facilitated the development of some selected technology-intensive industries. 3. Changing society. Information and technology are penetrating the censorship and repression of North Korea. More North Koreans are accessing more kinds of outside information than ever before. Yet, as North Koreans' information consumption habits become more technologically sophisticated, the government is taking great strides to curb the influx and circulation of outside information for domestic internet. In North Korea's isolation, they've developed their own internet called Pyongyang. It acts as the World Wide Web for the rest of the country. However, it's a walled garden network of curated content that can be accessed through a dial-up connection. Propaganda or progress. State media have publicly celebrated various achievements in advanced technologies, including an intelligent home system. Beyond the purpose of propaganda, emphasis on the sector reflects North Korea's desire to harness technology to improve its economy. Challenges for journalists and researchers in North Korea. Journalists and researchers face significant challenges in North Korea due to the country's strict control over information and severe penalties for deviations. Strict control over information. North Korea ranks last in the World Press Freedom Index. The government controls all information, making it difficult for journalists and researchers to access accurate data. Severe penalties. Journalists who do not follow the strict laws face punishment in the form of hard labor or imprisonment, or sometimes even execution. Journalists have been arrested, deported, sent to forced labor camps, and killed for deviating from the party's narrative. 3. Limited access to external information. The extreme lengths to which the North Korean government will go to prevent its citizens from accessing external information has been documented. For propaganda, North Korean journalists are expected to produce content that aligns with the government's narrative. They are often required to show utmost patriotism in their reporting. 5. Challenges in using social media. While North Korea sees foreign social media outlets as a good source for reporting, it also acknowledges certain limitations in determining the accuracy and authenticity of data and its value. These challenges make it extremely difficult for journalists and researchers to operate freely and effectively in North Korea. Hope is a delicate flame that flickers even in the darkest corners. And when we cast our gaze upon North Korea's future, that flame endures against the prevailing winds of uncertainty. The question of whether there is hope for positive change in North Korea's future is a poignant one, resonating with the aspirations of millions, whose lives are entwined with the enigmatic fate of this secretive nation. In the hearts of those who yearn for change, hope persists like a quiet anthem echoing through the valleys of oppression. It is the hope that someday the closed borders will open to reveal a world beyond the tightly controlled narrative. It is the hope that the whispers of dissent will transform into a collective roar for freedom, breaking the chains that bind the voices of the oppressed. The human spirit is resilient even in the face of adversity. The stories of defectors who dared to defy the status quo bear witness to this resilience. Their journeys, fraught with peril, are testaments to the indomitable will to seek a life beyond the confines of a regime that thrives on secrecy. In their narratives, hope takes shape, a hope for a brighter, liberated existence for those left behind. Diplomatic efforts, though often slow and complex, embody another avenue of hope. The world's collective endeavors to engage with North Korea, address nuclear concerns, and advocate for human rights signal a shared belief in the possibility of positive change. It's a hope that transcends borders, a hope that diplomacy can pave the way for a more open, interconnected North Korea. Yet hope in North Korea's future is not devoid of challenges. The geopolitical landscape is fraught with uncertainties, and the journey toward positive transformation is marked by obstacles. The shadows of the past, the weight of isolation, and the complexities of international relations cast doubt upon the path ahead. In contemplating the hope for positive change in North Korea's future, we navigate an emotional terrain. It's a journey where the heart wrestles with the mind, where empathy fuels the desire for a better tomorrow. Hope in this context is not just an abstract concept. It is a deeply human yearning for a world where the barriers crumble, where the oppressed find solace, and where the flame of positive change burns brightly. In the symphony of emotions that surround North Korea's future, hope plays a haunting melody, a melody that whispers of possibilities, resilience, and the undying spirit of those who dream of a different reality. Whether this hope transforms into reality is a question that lingers in the hearts of observers, a question that only time will answer. Conclusion. In decoding North Korea, we unveil a complex tapestry of history, politics, and human resilience. It is not just a matter of understanding. It is a call to empathize, engage, and contribute to a world where transparency transcends borders. The video for today has come to an end. We are grateful that you took the time to view this enlightening video. Remember to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the most groundbreaking content. If you enjoyed watching this video, showing it to your friends and giving it a like. Bye and have a nice day.